Welcome to the 5G Cybersecurity Decision Maker webinar. This webinar is provided by National Emergency Supply Agency and Finnish Transport and Communication Agency Traficom. This webinar will also set the stage for the next 5G Cybersecurity Hack 2021, which starts after the webinar and continues through the weekend. The hack is organized together with the challenge partners Cisco, Ericsson, Nokia, PwC and Aalto University. My name is Jukka-Pekka Juutinen and I'm your host today. I'm coming from the National Cybersecurity Center, Finland, which is part of the Traficom. Today's webinar target is to explore and discuss how can we safeguard the future digital society together. First, we are going to have two keynote speakers, and after that, a roundtable discussion with the experts of 5G technology and cybersecurity from our partners. Our last presenter is the CEO of the National Emergency Supply Agency, and he will give us a point of view presentation. You can send us questions from the roundtable discussion session in webinar question section. This webinar is also recorded, and recording will be made available soon after the event. But before we set the stage for our first speaker, I think we can go a little bit back in time with one of our panelists, Juha Nieronen from the National Cybersecurity Center.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Juhani, tell us why we are here now.
Well, actually, it's a bit of a deja vu for me. We had the first 5G cybersecurity hack event in 2019, late November in Oulu, which, well, was cold and dark as opposed to this warm event here right now. And back then, when we started that hack, we knew that it was the first in line for many to come in the future. So I think that is a blast from the past and sets the stage here.
Yeah. So what do you think is the role of these hacks in 5G era?
Well, I think having, in general, when you have emerging technologies and you have different kinds of hack events and you invite the community to look at the technology, both from the usability point of view as well as the security point of view, long before it's in production, it's an excellent idea. And I'm not going into detail on that. We have a lot of experts that will give outlines on how 5G will change the world and all the different aspects that we have. So that will mean that there is a lot to hack.
Yeah.
That's why we need a lot of events to explore new technologies, new specifications, new devices, new services that are coming in, and look at the security from as early as possible so that we save in development costs and can roll out the technologies safely and quickly.
Yeah. So what's your expectation for the Cybersecurity Hack 2021?
Well, I'm a jury at the PwC Aalto challenge, and I'm happy if I see something totally unexpected. So I expect to. I know that there are many teams with wide areas of expertise, and I know that they will think of things that others haven't before them thought of. So I expect to see something that, well, I didn't expect.
That's great expectations. What do you think is the role of Traficom in this in 5G?
Well, I think we have many roles. So, of course, we are the regulator. So, when new technologies come in, you would know better than I about this one. So, to in future make sure that these networks are operated safely and without service interruptions and so on. But also, I think we can serve as an accelerator in getting the technologies rolled out, in a safe manner, of course, and talking to all of the different kinds of stakeholders, of course, the operators, the vendors that are providing the technologies, the end users, different kinds of end user organizations, and get all their inputs. And I think this hackathon is a great example of the kinds of things that we can do to accelerate.
Cooperation and collaboration together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you think what the hackers are waiting for from the cybersecurity hack?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for hackers to get their hands on some equipment that normally are not that common. So most hackers, when I talk to them, expect that telecommunications gear is arcane and totally different from all other kinds of technology. That doesn't hold anymore. I think we'll go into that much more. Now it's much more accessible to hackers in terms of technology, in terms of what they are used to do security testing on. But still, an operator core network, big equipment from major vendors, that's not something that you stumble by. So that's, I think, in itself, a great thing that will promote this event to the hackers. And I think it's a thing why they come here.
Do you see there is something different to hack communication networks technology than these kind of systems which are normally being hacked, these hackathons?
Yeah, well, previously it used to be that you have these normal protocols and normal systems, and then you have telco systems, and they might have something in common. But now they are much more closer together. So, in technological sense, it's not that different. But when you go, so first there is like the surface, the technological elements and the building blocks they are made out of, and that's starting to be pretty similar than everywhere else. So that's a good thing for the hackers. There's something known and something common. But once you get inside the system and think that, okay, now I might have some leverage on this system. What I might do next? That's the learning point. So what are the actual impacts?
Yeah. So if you look from the point of view of the operators, what they might get from the 5G cybersecurity hack?
Well, I think the operators are. This is just my view. I think they are on a possible turning point. So previously they had very closed systems that they themselves operated and controlled very tightly. And now, as we try to get more out of these networks and try to enable all sorts of digital services, they will need to open them up to partners, to the vendors, to private organizations. New kinds of value networks will come that will together operate and integrate the networks. And I think that sort of things would be the most beneficial to operators, to find out what are the pain points in integration when you start opening up the network, what should still remain closed, and what kind of security controls and security logging and monitoring should be in place.
Yeah. Let's come back to the cooperation, collaboration. What you see is the role of collaboration in 5G and in overall, if we talk about the communication networks and the security of communication networks?
Well, I could start with a simple example. I think many people are not very aware of how things are regulated in Finland. Yeah. So it's very different from what I've heard from other places. It's not like you have the bad cop, which is the regulator, and then you have subordinates working under the regulator. I think in Finland, it's much more a dialogue. It's okay, we want to learn from you, and I hope it goes vice versa. Usually it does. So basically, when you start developing new regulation, it's like, okay, we think that this is an issue. Can you give us a confirmation or counterpoints on what should be in the scope of regulation? So it starts very early.
Yeah.
And I think now that we know that we don't know everything about what will be done over 5G. So all sorts of ideas when you have low latency networks and you have possibly edge computing everywhere. If all these plans will come true, well, there's going to be a lot of more discussion. Yeah. So I think that's why we need to push it to all of the different areas. This strong tradition of doing cooperation.
Yeah. How about if you go a little bit closer to your life? How you describe yourself as a user of communication technologies? Do you already use the 5G subscriptions and connections?
Sadly, no. I don't think I don't have the terminals yet.
Yeah.
And I think, well, I'm a bit conservative.
Yeah.
So I know some of my colleagues will want to buy the latest gadgets all the time. And I do appreciate that, but I think I'm a bit more conservative on making simple things that work for me and then building on those. So I'm still waiting for the terminals that would suit my particular needs. But then again, I'm just me.
Yeah, that's true. How about what you're waiting for from the 5G and new applications, what 5G make available?
I think the best thing that would come for me would be that we could have low latency network within Finland so that you could do things like have band practices where people are in different locations and can still play together without the latency affecting that. I'm really expecting that.
So what's your instrument?
Well, I dabble.
Okay. So, do you have any message for the hackers who are participating this cybersecurity hack 2021? Well,
I think the main thing would be that keep your mind open.
Yeah.
So basically, I've been telling that there is a lot that will be familiar to you. So start from the easy stuff.
Yeah.
Look around. It's a network like any other. So basically, it can be a corporate network, it can be a factory network, it can be a fighter plane network, it can be a 5G network, and still some laws of physics do apply.
Yeah.
So start from there, do enumeration, look around, and start for looking at the obvious things. But pretty soon you should start wrapping your head around that, the fact that these are something that are used in operator networks to, well, at basic level, move packets around to different subscribers at the maximum speed possible. But also, there are various things that they have built in there to facilitate new things. So there's a lot of configurability in these systems, a lot of new interfaces. So when you see a new interface, well, of course, there are things that you can do to any interface, try to fuzz it, try to enumerate endpoints, stuff like that. But once you start figuring out that, okay, this is this kind of endpoint, start thinking about the specific misuse scenarios. Okay, now that I can affect packet routing, what could I do with affecting packet routing, for example?
Yeah. So there is also a lot of things for the vendors. So what do you think the vendors can expect from the hack?
Well, I think it's kind of like a time-limited bug bounty program. And I know that these are the kinds of vendors that have done their homework. And usually those kind of vendors are the ones that benefit from bug bounty style things. So it's a time-limited, enhanced bug bounty. And as I think one of the original bug bounty using organizations, Google said that they have never had better a bang for the buck from having any external testers than in a bug bounty.
Thanks, Juhani. We will see you again in the panel discussions.
Thanks.
So now it's time for our first speaker. Let's welcome the Minister of Transport and Communications, Mr. Timo Harakka.
Ladies and gentlemen, ENISA and Commission representatives, dear friends of cybersecurity, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome you to the 5G Hackathon. The Traficom Cybersecurity Center is arranging this event for the second time, now in partnership with the Emergency Supply Agency. While I'm sure that we all are eagerly looking forward to resuming the meetings that we took for granted before the pandemic, we can probably also agree that if ever a virtual event was ideally suited to any topic at all, it would have been this kind of an occasion where we seek to address the challenges of our digital operating environment. We can certainly also agree that 5G networks are going to form the backbone of our continually digitalizing society. A few years ago, we made it our common goal in Finland to be the leading 5G country, securing the commitment of the ministry, of the agency, and the entire telecommunications sector. We are contenders in this 5G race, as the benefits of this new technology will include a healthier economy and increased productivity. People are describing 5G as a revolution, an enabler of the fourth industrial revolution. Finland has a global reputation as a pioneer of mobile technologies, and I dare say that we have already achieved our goal and also become a pioneer in 5G. In just over a couple of years, 5G networks have been built in more than a third of Finnish towns. By the end of last year, high-speed 5G was already available to 67% of all households. That is 2/3 of Finnish homes. In all of this, the ministry serves as an enabler. One of our key tools is spectrum policy. It is our job to ensure that enough frequencies, which are the basic highways of mobile networks, are made available for network construction at a sufficiently early stage and under appropriate terms and conditions. Finland has allocated more frequencies per capita to mobile networks than any other country in Europe. We have also rapidly deployed spectrum bands so that companies can build networks that are capable of applying the latest technology. Finland was also the first member state in the European Union to deploy the entire collection of 5G pioneer frequency bands. Our first auction took place more than 4 years ago, and the most recent was held last summer. We have also reserved 5G frequency not only for national networks, but also to local micro operators, be they factories, ports, or shopping centers, or festivals. Well, technology is not an end in itself. Instead, the focus is on the benefits that it brings to society. Introducing 5G technology opens up enormous opportunities for us. 5G has huge potential as an enabler of innovation and economic growth. This is why we must remain at the forefront of development. Besides even faster wireless communication, 5G also enables connections with lower latency and higher data transfer capacities. It thereby makes a massive Internet of Things possible, as well as an entirely novel services and business operations in all sectors of society. Rapid deployment of 5G across the entire territory of the European Union is particularly important for EU digital competitiveness. For industry, 5G means more efficient processes, automation, and new manufacturing methods. In healthcare, 5G can facilitate the use of various remote and real-time services. In transport, new technology makes travel and logistic chains smoother and more user-oriented and paves the way to automation based on scenarios updating in real time. The opportunities afforded by faster high-capacity technology with lower latency are limited only by our imagination. It is through trials that new services and innovations based on 5G technology are being promoted, as all of this provides a display window for Finnish expertise. Testing is hugely important for new technologies. In Finland, we have several development projects ongoing involving tests of network solutions for industry and smart cities. And for years, we have also been allocating frequencies for a wide range of testing and product development application. Finland has a unique package of test networks, and we are gradually looking ahead towards 6G. New network technology and the services that depend on it also bring new security challenges. With a growing number of critical functions in our society based on 5G networks, we must absolutely safeguard their safe and uninterrupted operation. Secure deployment of 5G networks requires close collaboration between a range of operators. They need to work together at various levels, nationally, within the European Union, and in global arenas. Over the past year, Finland has made significant progress in the long-term development of cybersecurity. I'd like to highlight two recent government resolutions that we've prepared in order to implement a great many desirable and effective measures in this field. The first of these is the Cybersecurity Development Program prepared by the Ministry of Transport and Communications. The program includes a concrete implementation plan with dozens of interdisciplinary measures to improve digital security during this administration and several to come. Cross-cutting themes of this program: cutting-edge expertise, close collaboration, a strong domestic cybersecurity industry, and effective national cybersecurity capabilities. The Cybersecurity Development Program has been prepared in extensive partnership with public authorities, universities, and the business community. Society as a whole must prepare for, detect, and respond rapidly to cyber threats when they emerge. Cybersecurity is a responsibility of each and every one of us. Our second resolution includes several concrete measures to improve cybersecurity in critical sectors. These sectors include healthcare, financial markets, energy and water supplies, transport, and digital infrastructure. Again, collaboration is critical. We propose a new law governing cooperation between public authorities, similar to the law helping the police, customs, and border to join forces in emergencies of the analog world. In crunch situations, this will ensure rapid mutual assistance and exchange of information between various government agencies. Of course, we are in close cooperation with the European Union. Finland has stressed the common EU approach in responding to the security challenges of 5G networks. In early 2020, we published a joint EU Toolbox of Measures to protect critical assets of the communication networks. We have implemented our toolbox measures in recent statutory amendments concerning security of networks. Our new legislation ensures national security while at the same time providing a level playing field for competition. I'm proud to tell you that our 5G security statutes have raised a lot of interest and also praise in the international community. Equally important are international efforts to ensure the security of new online technologies. International forums will establish common global standards for mobile networks to ensure interoperability and security. Network hardware suppliers are also heavyweight international operators, and they include the challenges in this hackathon event: Cisco, Ericsson, Nokia, and PwC. To conclude, adequate resources will be necessary for securely deploying 5G and future 6G networks. Investment in cybersecurity pays for itself many times over. The Ministry will continue to ensure that in Finland we enjoy access to an optimal communication network infrastructure in which the latest technology can be applied in ways that benefit the society as a whole. Finland has a long tradition of taking a comprehensive approach that brings together various branches of public administration and stakeholders. Deploying new online technologies will require measures that involve both public and private sector and collaboration between various operators. It is also in the same spirit of partnership that we have come together in this hackathon event. Despite the fine recent progress that we made in the field of cybersecurity, there's still plenty of work to be done in promoting security of communications networks. So I'm grateful to all of you who contribute to our common task for a bright digital future. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to our Minister Timo Harakka. Now it's time for our second high-level speaker. Let's welcome Mrs. Kirsi Karlamaa, Director General of Transport and Communication Agency, Traficom. The floor is yours.
dear 5G community. We all know that the future that the digital society is built on trust and cybersecurity. We have lived through multiple technological revolutions during our lifetime, and they are all shaping the world around us, and this is happening very quickly. And it's quite clear that cybersecurity is the responsibility of each director and board of directors. Our task as leaders is to ensure that future communication networks and services are secure and easy to use. Today we are building a future together, so I'm extremely happy to have all of you with us today. This evening starts the second 5G cybersecurity hack that we organize together with our challenge partners. The event will continue over the weekend and it's organized virtually. We have once again invited the best white hat hackers from all over the world. They are invited to do hands-on testing of 5G networks and equipment and to make as many useful findings as they can. Of course, we expect great results when the world's best know-how and state-of-the-art technology meet. The world was a very different place in November 2019 when we organized the first 5G hackathon with our partners. After that, we have all faced COVID-19 with all its effects. On the positive side, it has forced all of us to a new level of digitalization. The situation during the past years has also boosted digitalization in different organizations and businesses, and made us all rely more than ever on communication technologies and networks. And during the coming years, communication networks continue to play an increasingly important role. We at Traficom make sure that we do our best to help in ensuring a smooth transition to future digital society. This weekend, we continue building bridges between 5G vendors, academia, consultancy, and the hacker community. All of these are critical parts of safeguarding our networks and making the digital society safe and secure. We all know the benefits of 5G. Smart use of 5G and digitalization boosts businesses and processes, as well efficient use of spectrum. It also enables a massive number of terminal devices and saves energy. 5G provides more bandwidth and reliability for remote working and collaboration, and it drives the development of new transportation and logistics services. And the modularity of 5G networks enables flexible resource allocation and shorter time to market for new services. These benefits are only realized when the technology can be trusted. We at Traficom are proactively promoting collaboration, innovation, and development of the new 5G services. We work closely with 5G trials and projects that aim at facilitating innovations and creating new 5G-enabled services. And operating a 5G core is like operating a rich cloud-based application environment. It's a culture change also for the network owners. In Finland, we are a forerunner of secure 5G networks. And therefore, we have together with stakeholders and 5G vendors created a 5G reference architecture enabling and supporting network owners and secure deployment and operation of the 5G networks. And of course, we cannot rely purely on theoretical exercises, as part of 5G-enabled services are critical. We need to test our assumptions to regulate efficiently, but also proactively enable fast 5G adoption. We want to encourage everyone in the community to learn about cybersecurity and to share their knowledge with the security community and organizations ensuring secure move to 5G. The systems and networks are getting more complex with 5G, and there is a lot to study. We need many forums to look into this when we are developing the technology and rolling out the networks. At this weekend event, we have 129 participants from more than over 30 countries, including the USA, Russia, and China, among others. And I'm sure we get a wide variety of different approaches to inspecting of the security of the challenge partners' 5G systems. And based on these results, the vendors can improve their products and systems and take this information also to the 5G standardization to improve the cybersecurity of the technology. We also get valuable insights on what kind of attacks we can expect later on. And we can consider those in decisions on how to regulate 5G operators and networks. Collaboration brings us all together today and during this weekend. And when it comes to technology, shared knowledge is our best emergency supply. We enhance practical knowledge on how to maintain and build assurance to secure 5G environments for telecom operators, cloud providers, industry, and citizens. This is a great learning experience for all of us in the field of cybersecurity. Finally, I wish to thank our partner, the National Emergency Supply Agency, for enabling us to arrange the event, and the organizations working with us, Cisco, Ericsson, Nokia, PwC, and the Aalto University. I also thank all the white hat hackers from around the world who are taking the time with us and making the event come true. My sincere thanks already advance for the insights of our speakers and panelists today. Reliable cybersecurity needs us all, and it happens through active cooperation. I'm sure that cybersecurity is close to our heart, and together we will keep up the good work in the future too. I wish you all a very joyful and insightful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Karlamaa, for the great speech. Now we are ready to move on to roundtable discussions where we have vendors as well academic, consultancy and agency representatives to discuss the latest development of 5G technologies and potential challenges to our society, organization as well national agencies might be facing in the future. I'm happy to introduce our panelists today. We have remote connection to two panelists. Lead security architect Pramod Nair from Cisco and Professor Raimo Kantola from Aalto University. And here with us in the studio we have Chief Product Security Officer Mikko Karikytö from Ericsson, Account Director Pekka Sundström from Nokia, Senior Manager Juha Remes from PwC, and Chief Specialist Juha Nieronen from National Cybersecurity Center, Finland. Just a reminder, if you want to post questions for the panelists, you can do it through the chat. And we have agreed here that with the panelists, we use first names in discussion, so let's keep it flexible and relaxed. But let's go to the panel discussions. And first question goes to all panelists, and let's start from you, Pramod. How do you see the cybersecurity of 5G in general?
Thank you very much, Jukka, Pekka. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to the whole thing. And we look forward to the great hackathon going on this weekend. We really appreciate it. So on 5G cybersecurity. So if you look at the previous technologies, it was basically for two reasons. It was voice or and the puck ended there. But in 5G, it's more of an enabler of services, right? It's more of what it can do with 5G, what use cases you can deploy using 5G, and how it is going to be deployed. So if you look at the new evolution in 5G, which has come after 10 years after 4G in this industry, you will see the way it is being deployed is more on virtualized infrastructures. Basically called cloud native infrastructures, where people can code using different programming languages. You can have open interfaces. You can have 3GPP and non-3GPP interfaces, meaning which the cellular technologies can now integrate very closely with non-cellular technologies. It was possible in a way in 4G, but in 5G, it's better standard. So you will see the evolution of way the use cases are going to be deployed. The way the technology itself is going to be deployed is changing a lot and is very open. And this evolution requires evolution of a mindset in security. So that evolution of mindset is what we'll be speaking more about today. But for me, the entire mindset of security is going to change. Security will be foundational going forward in each of the use cases, because that is going to touch each and every citizen of the country, be it the manufacturers, be it service providers, or be the consumers. So it's going to be an entire end-to-end impact of 5G. And here is where we see security as important. Thank you, Jukka.
Thank you. Shall we continue from you, Raimo?
Yes, sorry.
Thanks.
So
Now
first
we
of all, the security in 5G, the issue is not about the technology itself, at least when it comes to managers and politicians. It's just business as usual. If there's anything to be done there, engineers will fix the problem. It's all about the usage, how the technology is going to be used, and how wide is the territory or the coverage of the technology in the society. Everything is going to be digitalized, and as a result, sort of the attack interfaces are going to be wider, and also opportunities for the hackers are going to be much wider. Impact is going to be much higher if there's some breach of security. So the society will be very much dependent on the new technology. And then there's this introduction of cloud technology into the 5G, which means that the operators need to learn new practices, how to operate their networks, and do that in a secure manner. Very important learning element for the MNOs, but also for the private companies that take up the 5G technology in their use, for example, in harbors or industry campuses or whatever. Then, like in previous technologies, also in 5G, the device-to-device trust is missing. The network doesn't take a stand in terms of whether you can trust the communicating party. And sort of basically a hacker can be at the other end, and the network doesn't exclude the hacking. And when you do critical stuff, then you are vulnerable because of this. The DevOps operations are going to be introduced with the 5G to the networks, but also into the whole area of digitalization. That is my opinion. It means that development and then deployment are in one chain of a process, and this once again opens new surfaces for attacks. So basically, my message is that we need to do something about this, because the impact of failure in cybersecurity is much higher in 5G than it has ever been. All right.
Thank you, Raimo. Let's continue from here. Studio, will you start, Mikko?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, and really great to see you, Pramod. It's over a year that we have met previously. Great to have this very high expertise panel here. Yeah, it's really hard to disagree with anything that was said before me. I think it's pretty clear what 5G is providing us as really the enabler of innovation and the new types of services we can't even imagine yet. I think at the same time, we must realize that this is the 5th generation. So this is not, we're not here first time. So the technology has been maturing. And if we even look for 2G, 3G, 4G, we have things there designed in security and privacy that are not common in all the other networking technologies that what humankind have known. So we have SIM cards, we have had physical identity devices, and we have strong encryption already in 4G, for example. So now 5G is improving that immensely. If you just look at, for example, the release 15, a couple of years behind already, it's old news. It's not news, it's old news. We already have there better subscriber privacy. We have integrity protection of user plane. We have service-based architecture introduced already that basically brings us much better defense in depth and almost like zero trust type of deployment. And these are developments that come with 5G specification. But then in the end, yeah, it's a team play. It's a team sport, making telecommunication networks work and be secure. We need to look at it from the end user's point of view, like Pramod, you mentioned a few of these use cases that will be mission critical. We will have massive IoT and whatnot. So if you look at the stack, first we standardized, and vendors like us, we make the technology and then we deploy it with the operators, and then operators need to operate it securely. And all these 4 layers are needed to actually have a secure deployed network and security and privacy for the end users. I think it's a team sport in the end.
Yeah, thanks. Let's continue.
Okay. Hey, thank you from my side as well. It's a great opportunity, and good to see some colleagues, and it's good to dress up, put on a suit, which actually fits, which I was a little bit worried about. But I would actually kind of echo what was said before. So of course, the criticality has always been there for 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. But I think at the same time, with all of those generations going forward, of course, there's threats and there's additional security. By definition, from the standard and from the previous generation, it's always more secure. But also, I think the other side of things is that the opportunity is bigger. Every single time we have a new generation of the communication network technology, the opportunity is getting bigger and bigger. And of course, with 5G, it's getting vast. It's immense. So of course, the cybersecurity is extremely important right now because it's connecting more things than any of other technology has done before. But of course, I come from the commercial side. So when I talk to our customers and look at their business cases, I think one of the questions that needs to be answered is, of course, that there needs to be more security and all over the place. It comes with a cost. So I think that's something where, when I discuss with our customers who are looking to deploy 5G, somebody needs to pay for it. And I think that's something that, we need to solve as an industry. So it's not just vendors or the operators, but I think that's something, it touches everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Let's go to my right side, Juhani.
So, yeah, hard to disagree with anything that has been said. One thing though, as a guy with an engineering background, I wouldn't say that, yeah, it's just leave it to engineers and they'll fix it. So I think there's a lot more than that to it. When you start to look at these plans that it's not a walled garden, it's an open market with all kinds of new connections, all kinds of new integrations. I'm thinking about, the sweat is starting to generate if I thought about interoperability and functionality of this network when you have all these different actors that don't have the extensive background that, for example, Ericsson and Nokia have in these things, or operators. So I think that the engineering feats that are involved in terms of functionality, not to speak of security, are going to be immense. And but on the other hand, I think it's modern tech. So it's not just like take the old tech and change it a bit. It's modern. It's something that is used everywhere. It's same building blocks that are battle hardened in other spheres are being used, so that it's not an impossible feat. And I'm glad Mikko mentioned zero trust, because that's the kind of attitude you need to have from the get-go, and you can't really. Well, it's good that the standards are moving forward because, well, they have to.
Thanks. Juha.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and like you were earlier already taking so much points, and I wonder if there's anything left to say. But I think that we are having same type of transition and discussion going on here that once we were starting to move all the IT infrastructure from back corners of the office into the cloud. And can we trust the data centers and so on? I think that the 5G is making that same for the telecom infrastructure. We are taking the whole infrastructure close by to the customers. We have a private networks there. We have all type of functionalities. And one of my concerns is, which has not said here, that I trust that technology vendors have been taken very much consideration how this technology works, how the cybersecurity is considered, how all these things are tested and developed. And so far, the maturity with these current vendors is very good. They have been doing that with the generation after generation with the mobile networks. But today in the 5G, there are going to be suppliers and vendors which has never done it. And they have the access on it. They probably don't follow these kind of things. But they are going to provide a lot of services, and they are their services and applications are utilized in very widely. And there is then the people, processes, controls. They probably are not in the place as they are considered. And tiny little firmware upgrade in one entity may reflect the whole infrastructure and whole ecosystem who is trusting on it. And now once we talk about the critical area of certification or critical areas of 5G Toolbox, for example, we are seeking for a tiny little area, but we are looking at technical point of view. What is for the telco? What is for the radio network supplier? What is the core suppliers? Critical parts, we test them. But we forget that once we take that into the use for critical sector, like a power, water supply, healthcare, banking, then the whole network turned to be critical. And then we have to look at the holistic point of view. And that comes in a completely new picture. And we haven't thought about that with the telecommunication area as what we have done already decades in data services once we transfer to the clouds.
Yeah, thanks. If we look this issue from the point of view of decision makers and try to summarize, what you see are the main threats in 5G-enabled digital society now and in the future? Who would like to start?
Well, I like to fill the void.
Yeah.
So basically, if you look at the, as we've been saying and what Juha was saying as well, engineers will do their job. But of course, 5G, it will connect so many things, and it kind of moves to the new areas. So I would say, understanding the whole thing and educating and making sure that, because there's always going to be a weakest link. And I don't think that's going to be the network equipment. So trying to educate people to, take care of it.
Yeah, I would like to continue with the engineers will do their job if you let them. Please let the engineers do their job. So you said earlier that somebody needs to pay for it, and so there needs to be the decision that this is something to be taken seriously and needs to be addressed. Of course, we will have. I need to say, because of my paycheck, that we will have regulation. We already do have regulation of the critical parts, which takes care of some of the things that you talked about. But I trust that there will be gaps, and we will need to develop and iterate over them. And this will set the minimum level. But for the decision makers, let the engineers do their job.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And I have to say that in the same way, they zoom out and take the bigger picture, the policymaker view, and the kind of national and regional security of the networks. So if I zoom in and think it from my perspective, being the Chief Product Security Officer for Ericsson, one of the leading vendors, And how we approach it, I think it applies to this strategic level also. You need to understand that already from the idea, you start assessing risks and you take the whole picture, not just the block that you are working with, but the next block and the block before you, the sourcing partners, the suppliers, the delivery until the end of life. You have to have a strategy. How do you make security and privacy stick, until the end of life, for example, as a vendor? So I think that kind of strategic view is needed on a policymaker level also. And I'm pretty happy about the EU Toolbox because it is actually addressing both the technical side and the strategic side also in security measures. So applying the Toolbox in Europe, for example, is a good way forward.
Yeah,
I think
sorry, Juha, please go ahead. Please go ahead, Juha. Sorry. Juha was going to say.
Yes, Pramod, just.
Yeah, I can say. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, Mikko, I would agree with what you were saying, right? And good to see you again in the first place. So, if you look at the question, to answer the question, what are the main threats in 5G apart from all different threats, right? One of the key threats which we are really seeing is the supply chain. Of course, there are many threats. We can speak about virtualization. We can speak about new interfaces and things like those. But if you see the way 5G is going to impact your day-to-day life, your critical infrastructure, the way it's going to use, supply chain becomes extremely important, which can be at the PCB manufacturing level, at a design level, schematic design level, or maybe even at the software level. So supply chain does not only mean hardware, it means software as well. Because if I need to attack 1 million IoT devices, I will not go into each one of them. I will attack the application layer where I can control the entire story. So to answer the specific question, I think the supply chain security, specifically on hardware and software, is very important. Thanks.
Before I let you answer, Juha, I have one question more for you. So if you answer this question also, could you
levels?
Yeah, could you also answer how should we mitigate these main threats?
It's rather hard to have just one simple solution on it. It comes more or less that I think it's issue of the trust, who you trust. And I think there need to be transparency with all of these players who are vendors and all the organizations who are the users, how they use it, who are the vendors, and then the MNOs which are supplying to this overall network access. There need to be trust with all of these players and transparency with a certain extent, with the services that what you are acquiring and technology, how it's tested, how it's used, how it's developed. And then we have even the political layer. It seems that the 5G is getting very political and it's going to be in a sort of trade issue between the countries and we are somehow even ending trade war, and that's accelerating doubts. And that's then in that we really need to focus on trust and bringing in a sort of team playing as you said earlier there, Mikko, team playing in this area, trust, developing methodology, transparency with the players. If something happens, then we also communicate with these problems and we fix it as fast as possible. This is the only way. There is no single toolbox or single solution or single technology to mitigate risks or mitigate these vulnerabilities. But it's all about these things that the holistic ecosystem need to work simultaneously together. And then if something happens, we need to have all of these risk management tools in place to take over and fix the problems what is going on. And that relies that the whole society can trust our 5G online, because we are going to be online continuously now on once we are utilizing 5G.
Thanks. Let's move on and
maybe I can say a couple of words.
Yeah, of course, Raimo.
Yes, I have 2 points to make. One is that the question of who is allowed to do the engineering for the 5G, say, in a private use case. I remember I was refixing a kitchen in a small studio that I happened to own a couple of years ago, and then the company who sort of owns this house or manages it attacked me and said that you cannot install the kitchen. you need a guy with a certificate to do the hydro isolation sort of on the floor, which is sort of ridiculous anyways, but you need somebody with a certificate to do a simple task in the kitchen, right? At the same time, I recall the case of Vastaamo, where the owner of the company had no education whatsoever in security or engineering for that matter. He was self-learned completely, and he set the healthcare company, IT systems and networks and all that, and he was hacked. We lost 40,000 people's health data to the blacknet, right? Which is now the company is bankrupt. So what happens if these private 5G networks are being set up by self-learned people, right? Let's not allow them to do that, and let's sort of set some minimum criteria. Maybe we need some kind of attestation to mitigate this threat, that there is not sufficient competence when you engineer the network. The technology can be great, like we have heard in here, but it's a question of how you use it, and it can still break because of this. Then the second point is the usage in critical applications. I think we have this very popular but unfortunate term called Internet of Things. It's a bad idea from the very start. Internet means that anybody can talk to anybody else. And if you do the Internet of Things in the same way, this is a bad idea. It means anybody can hack you if you are doing anything on the surface of the physical world and the digital world. You are vulnerable from that. I think when we do critical use cases, be that finance or healthcare, e-government, anything like that, we should isolate everything end to end from the internet, right? Use the same packet transport infrastructure that we have for the internet and other VPNs and all that. But these use cases end to end, isolate them from the internet. This is the direction where we should be going. And this is our research, what we are trying to do in Aalto University at the moment. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Raimo. I think we did go to the second question already, but let's continue from that. So what do you think that especially the organization who are offering critical services should take into account when using 5G networks and services? And what is their role in security? Let's start from Mikko.
Yeah, I think that those use cases are extremely interesting. I'm personally pretty fascinated about how we can use this very battle-hardened commercial technology to actually some public use cases and very high-demanding mission-critical use cases. I think that I would just reflect back into the trust stack as how we believe that the telecommunication networks are built. There you are seeing that the operations layer and also partly the deployment layer, where the critical, mission-critical or critical use case operator is doing their business. They need to be very careful. They need to be implementing the best practices in security. Is it everything from defense in depth and least privilege practices? I know personally from incident response globally. I've been working in product security incident response for many years, and we know that unfortunately the common denominator for many issues is really the simplest operational security practices. It's about passwords. It's about hardening, about closing debug ports. It's about that kind of thing. So if I was a critical service provider, I would be paying 10 times more attention than a random, massive IoT or fun device provider. Even I think that's very important. Operational security.
Thanks. Other comments?
Well, I could go with legacy. So basically, you have this great new network, but we will have, especially when you go to, let's say, manufacturing, you will have decades of legacy. So that's a major integration channel, because by definition, they cannot have the same kind of security things. And in these cases, I would tend to agree with Raimo initially said, that be very conservative when integrating any of these systems into the new, everybody talks to everything, there's zero trust everywhere. And you need to have, you have great devices, but you need to have great devices. It's like if you take a legacy system and roll it out there, it's like riding a bike or walking on a highway. So it's not very safe. It's not very good for anybody.
Yeah. Juha.
I think that you have to really look at the holistic view on this, because then this vulnerability in the technology is a one tiny area. But in a cybersecurity, the biggest failures are happening with the people and with the processes. Maybe even 80% of the failures happens with the people. You neglect something, like a lot of people are saying that if you can take the human out of this picture, it would be very easy to then to manage. Then also, even though that you take human out of the picture, you still have a processes, and human designs them. Machines cannot design that. And if you are providing some critical services, you have to take overall scenery with all the controls, including that how you are recruiting people, how you are training them, how you are taking them into the utilizing technology, as well as how the processes are going on there. Like a typical thing that if you are making some upgrade of the network, it cannot be just behind of the one person. You need to have several pairs of eyes to observing that what is happening before you put engage, launch. It's good to have some testing procedures behind of it. And that's always forgotten, because you are in a hurry, you try to save, and then you try to make shortcuts and somewhere. And then in the end of the day, technology vendors are saying, and technology people are saying that we tested it all, we did it all, we made it 100% great. What the shit? Then the shit hits the fan, and you forgot some tiny little control, and somebody comes and stick in the USB stick into some device and make a little tiny firmware upgrade, and it happened to be something what I just didn't consider. Like in this type of hackathon challenges, what we have here, when we're thinking where is the weakest links, maybe you can walk into the radio tower, break into the one tiny lock, and stick your USB stick into those radios or something. You might get the access into the total network, but you or anybody didn't consider in the first place. And that means that you really need to have the holistic view on these things. Look at all the angles and consider that what these hackers, what these people who would like to damage you could do. And then there's a quality issues that there's just human errors, which still happen quite often.
So basically, when you have there was a horror movie back years, there was like, I know what you did last summer. In this case, it's like, I know what you didn't do last summer.
Yes.
I'm sorry of bad language. Do you have any comments, Pramod or Raimo?
Yes, I will just take a stab at it, and then I will let Raimo surely take it over. So for me, when we speak about 5G and critical services, the reason 5G is now valid or more important in critical services is because of the low latency use cases. Because in some critical infrastructures like water supply, nuclear reactors, or power grid 4.0, you will see a lot of low latency use cases which can be fulfilled by certain IoT devices. So IoT is split into multiple areas like dumb IoT devices or semi-smart IoT devices and really smart IoT devices, right? So the reason critical infrastructure now becomes more important for 5G is that it enables some operational efficiency and allows some new use cases by these low latency use cases. So for me, any new technology which is being deployed on this critical infrastructure should be really taken care of, either by having a better visibility or by ensuring that that device is secured going forward, because we're speaking about 5G specific to critical infrastructure. The other point when we speak about 5G and critical infrastructure is crypto agility, right? I'm sure you all know, but I'm obliged to state it. Whenever we deploy any new technology and to secure it better, we apply some cryptographic algorithms or cryptographic kind of key or a suite kind of methods, okay? The company or the entity which deploys these technologies should be crypto agile, which means that tomorrow, if some other technology like quantum computing comes in, it's not very far. It'll come very soon, where you will see that these keys can really be hacked open. It's just like building your house out of full armory and leaving your door not closed properly, right? So the point is, any new critical devices for low latency, which 5G will bring in towards critical infrastructure, those should be secured and really having a good visibility. Second, to have a right kind of crypto agility any of this on any of this critical kind of industry deployments where you can change the cryptographic algorithms to mitigate any threats from quantum computing or things like those? Thank you.
All right. So about critical infrastructure operators, first of all, let's consider IP networks as opposed to 5G networks or any cellular technology. The great thing about cellular technology is that there's compulsory authentication. The device is known to the network. You cannot disappear. You cannot spoof your identity. Your identity is given and it's known in the network. So it's not sand you are building the security on. It's a bit of a bedrock, this authentication. That's very good. But in critical infrastructures, you also need the wide area. And then in cellular cases, we at the moment use routed IP to do the wide area part. And then you have the same maladies that the IP networks have also present in the mobile networks, or you see them as mobile networks because your device is mobile. So what is wrong with the IP in critical use cases? It's first of all, the communication availability end to end can be broken by things that are beyond your control. Like somebody can flood a link where your packets are going, and as a result, your packets will stop and your flow will suffer. So it's DOSable by definition. If anybody can send packets to anybody else, then it is DOSable. Then also in routing, there's only one path available in IP networks to any device towards the destination. Okay, you have sort of hacks like TCP with multiple sort of addresses and all that, but that requires very careful engineering. It's not like a sort of an integral part of the network. It's on the device level, a bit of a hack. So availability of the connection can be broken by several reasons. One is routing, convergence, and another one is DOS, sort of denial of service attack by some disgruntled person or a terrorist for that matter. So routed IP is really not the technology that we would like to use for critical low delay communications at all. We just use it because it's out there and because we have been patching it up for ages, and then sort of we try to sort of engineer it in the best way we can and keep adding stuff on the network, and then maybe we can survive. But fundamentally, something new is what we need to look at. And when we sort of merge the digital world and the physical world and start programming the physical world, then instead of hiring a huge police force for sorting out all the crime that are on this surface, we should just have a much better wide area technology and link that with the great cellular technology that we have with authentication, and sort of suitable also regulation that allows to sort of prefer security over other aspects of communication more than the current regulation allows to do so.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Before I, Pekka, give you a speak, could you also answer the question of how we can guarantee the security of private 5G networks? We know that telecom operators have a long history with the 3GPP technologies and well-thought processes for securing their networks. But how about the private 5G networks?
Yeah, I think that's what I would want to talk about when we talk about the critical networks. So I think Nokia has been deploying hundreds of private networks, and of course, by definition, the private network is private, and there's different levels of being private. So part of it can be on the cloud or remote managed on the subscriber information, for instance, but you can truly have it as a closed private network. And of course, in order to have really critical services, maybe, for instance, a robot with the latency requirements or just security as such. Then, of course, when you manage the network end to end, then you are really on the driver's seat. And I think, of course, that's already doable in 4G, and a lot of players, especially in Finland, there's a vast number of these private networks in Finland, and I think Finland is one of the front runners in that one. But of course, 5G as a technology, that enables even more with the low latency and all of that. And of course, ensuring that, and I think another thing is, of course, with the players like mines, open mines, or ports, the problem with them is that the landscape is changing. So for instance, at the port, the containers are not static. If they are, then the port is in trouble. But building a static network and relying on somebody else to build it, that's not an option. And of course, there's the security aspect. Availability is really up to you.
Thanks. Let's move on. And this goes to the Raimo. What is the main role of academia and the research community in securing 5G technologies and networks?
We have in different universities in Finland several professors who are focusing on security aspects. And okay, there's this algorithm development, there's quantum computing coming. We need better algorithms that are quantum safe. But then also, I think it makes sense for the academic community to look at ways of radically improving the level of security in networks, be that 5G or other networks, and bringing in new ideas in terms of how you do it, how you also embed trust into the network. This was a term that we used in the context of 6G. In the IEEE 6G summit, we worked out a bunch of white papers, and one of them on security and trust, and it sort of raised the idea that let's embed trust into the network so that the communication is trustworthy. How to do this in the best possible way is something that is still a bit open, but lots of the base technologies for this exist. So it's a matter of just taking this idea seriously and seeing what is the best way of doing. Lots of experimentation is needed, but this is the role of the universities. We should sort of work on these topics.
Next one to Pramod, Mikko, and Pekka. In the other way, what academy and cybersecurity research can offer to the vendors, and how you can best utilize the academia and cybersecurity research. Shall we start from you, Pramod?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. And my parents always emphasized education as number one, not sports, not nothing, but education. And I still remember slaps from my mom and dad because I was not doing good in certain subjects. So coming back to the question, it has never been so important for academy to actually be more inserted into this whole 5G area. Why? Because now it is actually possible. Previously, each of the vendors, Cisco, Ericsson, does not matter. All the vendors have got our own proprietary software, and it needs to be licensed, and if they need to test and build up some ecosystem on top of it, right? Now it is all open source. So each and every network function of 5G can be made using Python or Golang or C, whatever you want, right? And here is where we need the institutions and universities to build up that ecosystem and expand on the use cases which are secure for the wider masses to use. Of course, we can look at various encryption algorithms as well, because if you look at the existing RSA algorithm, came up in 1975. I was not even in the liquid form, right? So in 25, 30 years, we're having kind of an RSA algorithm and small changes on the elliptical curve and those kind of algorithms. but there needs to be a really strong innovation in that area as well. So I'm really looking forward to working very closely with these universities. Thank you for the question, Jukka.
Thanks. Let's continue from here, Mikko.
Yeah, sure. So I think that academia and researchers have a very big role in security, at least from our point of view. We have, of course, a very close collaboration from the research side, continues with many universities, academia all around the globe. But then also things like, the security research of potential vulnerabilities or weaknesses in the designs already many decades ago. I just looked into our internal knowledge base and saw that the amount of papers coming out with ideas about how 4G or 5G networks can be found some weaknesses, it's in the growth. So I would say that attention is there, and we are continuously communicating and having this dialogue with the community. And I would say that, for example, this kind of event where we are now with invited hackers to actually look at the technology and try to find issues or weaknesses there. If we thought that we are done and we already did everything in security that can be done, obviously we wouldn't be in this event, because we are here to learn. So I think that it's pretty clear that this collaboration and this cooperation with academia needs to continue, and we are very open for that.
How about you, Pekka?
Yeah, I think, I could echo exactly what was said before by Pramod and Mikko, but I think the other thing is that, like Mikko said, like this hackathon event, this is a learning experience, getting the fresh look, what's out there. And I think there's exactly the same thing with the academia and the schools and universities and all of that, because there's fresh thinking. Because of course, these are young people who are not working yet, so they're not in the R&D, but they certainly have ideas. And they've been growing into a different digital world than I would say most of us in this panel, for instance. So I think this new thinking, and that's one of the only ways to insert that. And of course, doing the cooperation, the industry cooperation with the universities, of course, that's something that brings both benefits. Because of course, our intention in Nokia, for instance, would be that we would get future R&D engineers and future people working from Nokia with the bright ideas.
Yeah, thanks. Juha, in short.
Yeah, it's what actually you said in the end. It's very important part to have this development and working with the universities in order to find right people. Yeah. Because that's also the way that these students and so on, once they are there, they can see how these companies are operating, what type of culture they have in a company. Is that the place where I would like to work? And I think that's a very, very important issue, not to be forgotten, that they are able to see the window into the business world.
Yeah. So I think we're going to take the last question, and you all are, so the 5G cybersecurity hack starts today, and your organizations are challenge partners in the hack. What are your expectations for the hack, and perhaps do you have some message for the hackers? Let's start from the Raimo.
Okay, we expect to learn something new. That's why we offered our 5G network, which is for the purposes of research and education. We have actually sort of given the very realistic 5G network for the hackers to hack. And I wish them all the luck in doing so. And will, as a result, learn something new out of it. And unfortunately, I have to now leave because I have another meeting to host in just a few minutes. But thank you for the discussion. And also thank you for companies like Nokia and Ericsson for the cooperation that we have enjoyed in Aalto in working with you on 5G and beyond 5G and security in particular. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Raimo is popular man today. So shall we continue from you, Pramod?
Yeah, sure. See, most of the times we live life in a very disciplined manner and things like those, right? For today, I would love the hackers to go completely wild. I miss that time because nowadays I have to sit in an office and talk to customers in a suit or in a shirt. But there were times when we really used to get excited and doing some cool stuff, right? So for me, I will say go all out, guys. Have a great time and keep in touch because I'm a part of the jury and things like those. But for me, have a great blast and make sure whatever you're working on, be it Cisco or Nokia or Ericsson equipment, just enjoy and please try to break it as hard as possible. We'll be watching you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, let's come back to the studio. So, Mikko.
Yeah, that's very well said, Pramod. Definitely. I think that's also what we expect. We want, I also expect that people hacking and participating in the actual hacking, they will also have challenges. This is a different type of technology than what you see every day in the interwebs. So I would assume that there's also a certain amount of learning happening. But mostly, I would really like to see learnings on our side, something that we can take back home with our R&D and kind of insert in our continuous security by design processes and learn from these hackers. So that's really my key expectation.
Pekka.
Yes, so I think this is a good platform and good opportunity for us to learn. Then I would pretty much say what Pramod said, but I would use let your hair down because I'm sure somebody can. I can't.
There is two of us.
More than two.
Unfortunately. I don't know how they choose this panel. So, Juhani.
Well, I used to work at a university, and I now later when I looked at it, I thought it as like then I had all the time in the world and didn't know which problems should I tackle. Now I have all the problems in the world and no time to tackle it. So I think bringing these two worlds together is an ideal solution.
Juha, last word for you.
I believe we will have a very interesting adventure together. So that's what I say, that I call you to the adventure, and let's see that how this adventure turned to be. We would like to learn, and I hope that these hackers are going to learn, and we're opening window for the real 5G network in our challenge, and they can drop down the power plant, they can drop out the water plant, and that's something what doesn't allow these people to do in the real world. Hopefully they don't do that in the real world because that's a devastating outcome. But for this scenario, we have adventure to learn together. That could happen, and they help us to protect the society, and it also helps them to learn, and we can meet together. We can build the society together, ecosystem, and hopefully we all good challenge providers, my great colleagues, we can offer for you great jobs in the future, as well as we're gonna collaborate in the many forms.
Thank you.
I want to see you there.
I think it's time to give a virtual applause to our great panelists and for fruitful discussions. Now it's time for our last speaker, Mr. Janne Känkänen. He is CEO of the National Emergency Supply Agency, and he will present us insights on how to secure Finland's critical infrastructure in 5G era. Mr. Känkänen, the stage is yours.
Hello, my name is Janne Känkänen, and I am the CEO of the National Emergency Supply Agency in Finland. Very happy to be involved in the seminar or the webinar, and also very happy to see so many people interested in digital security, critical infrastructure, and the way in which this plays out in modern society. Our mission really is to secure and protect the society's critical functions from a variety of threats and risks. And in today's world, it is very evident that digitalization, digital threats, all that is to do with the digital world, in fact, compounded and reinforced with the arrival of the 5G is something that we focus on very much in the future. We have a very broad mission at our agency, and obviously, thanks to the technology development, digitalization is playing more and more reinforced heavy role in our tasks. What we want to achieve is a well-functioning society also in times of crisis and serious disruptions. It's a complex world out there. There's a lot of essential infrastructure and services that need to be protected in the case of disruptions and crises. What we are talking about here is really something that is close to citizens, people on the street. It's to do with the protection of essential services for clean water, food, distribution networks, logistics, electricity generation and distribution, but more and more obviously to do with telecommunications and the way in which the digital infrastructure, the technology affects everyday lives. There's a host of different threats and risks that are out there. Can be unexpected, can be something that emerges unexpectedly without warning. Take the example of COVID, the pandemic that we are still living through is a prime example of a long-standing crisis with a long duration, something that affects not only healthcare, but different aspects of society and the different essential functions of a society. There's a lot of interdependencies out there nowadays because of the complexity of our modern societies and economies. Disruption in one sector can immediately or more or less immediately affect other sectors' ability to function. We obviously wish to cater for different types of threats and risks and rely on our network of resilience critical companies in Finland to actually sustain and maintain a good level of preparedness through our stockpiling system, but also in the form of knowledge and know-how for business continuity and continuity management, cooperation that we do with the companies deemed critical for security of supply and economic resilience. I would also like to mention the evolving priorities of our work, of our agency's work and the network's work for the future. What we have done in Finland for a long time is to secure a basic level of material preparedness, which deals with stockpiling, production quotas, preparedness for these types of things, investments and technical systems preparedness. That is still out there. It has not gone nowhere. We still need to make sure that, for instance, in being able to respond to health crises like the ongoing COVID crisis, we need to have sufficient material stockpiled in order to respond to crises in logistic chains or otherwise. But there's another side to this. Operating reliability and resilience in a more broad sense has been brought to surface. Then, and on that area, we deal with continuity management, basically our ability to tolerate different types of disruption situations. What is very much in focus is cooperation, and obviously digitalization is one of the cross-cutting themes that affects everybody. Our mission really at the agency is about cooperation, joint work to enable our society to withstand these various types of risks and threats. We cooperate with businesses, third sector parties, and of course other official authorities to ensure the functionality of society in times of crisis, and the continuation of normal life with minimal disruptions. We cannot, of course, achieve a situation where we can always guarantee a continuation of normal life, but we do aim at achieving capability and know-how to actually minimize the disruptions, time-wise and otherwise. Then turning to 5G and digital infrastructure. In the future, 5G will certainly be a key element of communication networks. 5G will also change the way smart technological solutions are used by critical infrastructure, and secure solutions of 5G is an essential part of keeping the society going, as I already mentioned before. And I should mention and emphasize here the need to do this together. This together extends not only to Finnish society, but beyond our borders internationally. What we are developing right now and what we have actually launched just a few months ago, it's a new program on digital security with the aim of ensuring that critical functions of our society do withstand different types of cyber disruptions. So this is obviously as a background to do with digitalization of our society. We need cooperation to make sure that we have comprehensive preparedness. This can only be achieved through international networks and systems, and this also involves and requires quite a bit of foresight for the future. This is a 5-year program with a substantial investment from our resources as we operate through a government-sponsored fund for security of supply. We can also plan ahead. We can do this long term, and what we are doing with this program is to invest in cybersecurity for 5 years to come, with 200 plus projects and with the indicative total amount of 130 million euros. This means a lot of cooperation, involves a lot of joint work with companies, with people, with communities interested in digital infrastructure, and I'm sure this can reach us far. The program structure, as depicted here, gives you a bit of an insight for our program in more detail. There's a lot of changes in the operating environment in the left-hand side of this picture. Management of digital ecosystems, obviously global, dependence on automation, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Risk management in a complex infrastructure is certainly becoming more complicated. Disruptions spread in an uncontrolled manner, and so forth. Digital services can be jeopardized in different ways. So what we are trying to achieve through this program is to focus on preparedness, functionality, cooperation networks, and the future insight. As I said, our vision through this program, jointly with other parties, jointly with other companies, is to ensure that our society can withstand cyber disruptions and also cyber disruptions of the future. What we aim at achieving is smart security of supply, and this can only be done and achieved together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Känkänen, and I would like to give a big hand for all the speakers and panelists for the fruitful discussions and insights today. As we have heard today, security and reliability must be a solid corner of 5G networks, new services and applications. We already know how to mitigate the majority of the risks in mobile networks and 5G. But there are still many areas where we need more research of the ways how to mitigate new type of risk. Especially this relates to the different applications and use cases that come available during the coming years. This means that we have still time to do research and collaboration to find the best ways to avoid these risks to safeguard our future digital society. The 5G cybersecurity hack is a great tool for bringing different players together to improve the technology and solution through collaboration. I would like to thank you all participating in this webinar and wish you all a sunny summer. Let's keep each safe, and let's hope that next time we can meet physically in live seminar. Thank you and bye-bye.